Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Strife's Talking Points. And today I'm going to cover the police shooting in South Bend, Mayor Buttigieg's response, and the insanity that surrounds this topic. As always, before I begin, I'd like to say please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Especially comment, because we can't have conversations about this if you don't actually say something. It's very important to get your own feelings out there, whether you agree, disagree, have a totally separate idea. It's just one of those things we all need to know what people think about it. So this from the South Bend Tribune, and I have two of their stories in here over the shooting. Last year with the South Bend Police Department on track to outfit its patrol division with body cameras, Chief Scott Rosowski explained that the move was about accountability for the officers and the public. But last week's fatal shooting by an officer has raised more questions than answered about what happened. In other words, it looks like the status quo before the city spent $1.5 million on body cameras. So, Officer O'Neill receives a call, goes out, fires his weapon, kills Eric Logan, and there is zero body cam footage of this. The reason being is the cameras they have must be manually switched on, which as they go through in here, the officer did not turn his body camera on. Could be the heat of the moment, could be anything. However, we won't know what video of what happened strictly because it was never turned on. Is it right? Is it wrong? That's for everyone to kind of take into themselves, because the police department's adoption of the new policy after a shooting should have been the first step, but it's only one small step. Under the new rule, officers should activate their body cameras during all work-related interactions with civilians, the mayor announced Tuesday. This is Buttigieg kind of in the ensuing drama after the shots of death. He is now trying to backpedal and make up new policies on the spot, and I'm going to go over that kind of towards the end of the video. The absolute fiasco that Buttigieg is having, trying to establish a narrative story that he wants, an arc or anything like that. It is very sad to see this man with no ability to control the situation. Sequence of events here. This is also from the South Bend Tribune. O'Neill, who has been with the South Bend Police Department for more than 19 years, was dispatched shortly before 3:25 a.m. Sunday after a caller reported possible break-ins into cars in the areas of William Street's downtown South Bend. Now, later they found 6 vehicles had been broken into on William, 2 on Taylor, 2 on Central parking lot, a purse, a wallet, and a knife. The same knife that was found at the scene of the shooting were stolen from various vehicles, according to Cotter. Shortly after O'Neill drove into the parking lot, he saw a person's leg sticking out of a Honda Civic. O'Neill, the officer, stopped his cruiser, stepped out, and asked the man if the car was his. The man said yes, but O'Neill spotted a purse wedged in his clothing. The man emerged from the car with a knife in his right hand. 6 to 8 inch blade was in the man's hand. Logan is said to have ignored, this is what the policeman said, ignored multiple orders to drop the knife and then approached O'Neill with the knife raised. The officer then backed up, fired 2 shots. One struck Logan in the abdomen, which was later fatal. All right, so then of course you have 5 or 6 police cars arrive after the fact. And they go again. O'Neill was hired to hear. They talk more about him. Now, as for Logan, his brother admitted Monday that Logan had a history of drugs, but he said it should not affect how the shooting case is handled. The brother, Tyree Bonds, also pointed out his brother had no history of theft or break-ins. Now, this is the comment. He's never been a thief. You can check his record. You're going to find out he never stole anything a day in his life. Logan's criminal record, according to the Indiana Department of Corrections, court files includes a prison sentence between 2009 and 2017 for charges of dealing cocaine. He also had previous convictions for drugs, carrying a handgun without a license. If on the scene, you can see that there are 6 cars broken into and Logan was carrying property stolen out of 3 of them, that more or less negates what the brother said. If he was actively engaged in stealing from cars, came at a police officer with a knife, not saying the shooting was justified. However, the officer said he did sustain an injury from, I guess, the knife being thrown at him, which I found a lot of this story confusing as I was reading through it. Yeah, O'Neill did not have his lights on because he was circling the parking lot searching the area, and then of course he found him. So he didn't turn his lights on, didn't get everything going up, just because he wanted to be able to find the gentleman or the person stealing. He did. One of the issues remained unclear Monday was whether Logan threw the knife at O'Neill. If he threw the knife, he'd been disarmed. I don't know how the shooting would work there, but however, this has happened. And what you have is someone who spent several years in prison on drug convictions, now being caught breaking into cars, probably looking at multiple years back in jail for already being a felon, being caught robbing cars, being caught with a weapon. I'm assuming Logan would have known that he was pretty much going back to jail for several years, and that could have sparked his attempted attack on the police. Don't really know. However, shooting ensues, criminal dies, felon dies, and then you have this, which to me is one of the most interesting things about how our society is running right now, where everything is based on racism. It's not a criminal, a felon was shot breaking into cars and having a knife going after police. It's racism everywhere, and that's what's causing it. We're just going to watch a real brief clip here from CBS this morning. This is on their website, and we're just going to play a real brief piece here. Make sure the volume is all the way up.
Police force.
Y'all got racism inside of y'all police department. How are we supposed to trust it?
Now, every time there is a criminal shot by the police, they bring up racism in the police department, and it doesn't matter who shot who. If it was a black officer and a black person, it's just, it has to be racism. And this lady here is one of the more telling things that I'll talk about here in just a second.
I am raising a 7-year-old grandson that when he sees the police, he is afraid. That is not what's supposed to happen.
Now, here is a grandmother raising her grandson, which means the mother and father are completely out of the picture. That is a culture issue right there. If she is raising that grandson to be afraid of police, if that is the way her community treats the police, then that will always be a problem. You cannot raise your children to be afraid of the police. If all you can think of when there is a police shooting is all this is just based on racism, just holding you down, you have a very skewed view of reality. I decided to pull this up. South Bend is here. It ranks 96.7% higher than other U.S. cities for the crime rates. It has a much higher violent crime rate than average year over year over year over year over year. You can see that violent crime, these are the averages here. So in 2017, U.S. average was 214.8. South Bend was 590 flat, well over double, almost triple the violent crime average for the U.S. Property crime rate in South Bend in 2017, national average is 206, South Bend 417. Again, well over double. So you have double, almost triple the violent crime rate and double more than the property crime rate. And whenever you pull into the statistics of this, you generally see that these areas are very unsafe. And who is the problem? It's not the community, it's not the people, it's the police. The police are violent, the police are racist, the police are all these bad things. Is that the case? Do you believe that police cause violence, police cause property crime? That when you see these areas that have these extremely high things, and this is at the Pete Buttigieg town hall. This thing went off the rails for almost the entire time. Pete Buttigieg is pictured here in the very beginning article. Essentially, I'm just going to call it pandering to this group. Now, keep in mind that this is a drug offender or a criminal, someone who's allegedly broke into 6 cars on the same night, was then, either had a knife or threw a knife at police. That's still, you got to be up in arms. But there is a mini protest about this person being shot and killed. Now, Buttigieg, of course, as he's going for the Democratic nomination, is having to do what I would just like to call pro-pandering. He is unable to control the crowd. He is sitting there essentially going with the idea that, here it is, as the mayor of the city, I want to acknowledge that those 2 lines of effort, the effort to recruit more minority officers to the police department and the effort to introduce body cameras, have not succeeded, he said. And I accept responsibility for that. You can't make various race people join the police department. Some people want to be police, some people do not. You don't have control over who will and who won't be a policeman. You just have to make the application process and take the best candidates. Body cameras, I don't know why the body cameras wouldn't generally always be active, and maybe the cop can turn it off for 2 to 3 minutes, like if they're going to the bathroom, but that's just a matter of training on part of the officers. And I'm pretty sure that if the camera had been activated and you had seen him being ran out with a knife and then shot and killed, it wouldn't matter. I believe these protests, anytime that a criminal is shot or someone involved in criminal activity is shot and killed, you will have protests, as we saw in Frazier a few weeks ago, as we see really anytime there's a police shooting, these small protests break out, and then everyone is on alert. Here we go. In a Q&A section, one attendee told Buttigieg to recognize his department by Friday of next week to get racist off the streets, in reference to law enforcement officers. The crime that is going on in South Bend, the property crime, the violent crime, all these different things are not being caused by the police officers. They are not the symptom. They are not causing this. Buttigieg responded to the shouts of the crowd. I will say that if anyone who is on patrol is shown to be a racist or to do something racist in a way that is substantiated, that this is their last day on the street. Again, pandering to people using racism as a way to faux social change. They're pushing this idea that everything is racist. Years ago, there was, the joke that everything is sexist, everything is whatever, misogynist, everything. That was one of the stories you saw coming out everywhere was, oh my God, everything's an attack on women. And now you see the same sort of rhetoric coming out over and over and over again. Here is Reverend Michael Patton, who's president of South Bend chapter of the NAACP, moderated the discussion with Buttigieg and South Bend Police Chief Scott Rozalski. And Friday afternoon with CNN, Patton supported Buttigieg's efforts after the shooting, saying he's doing a phenomenal job. I've watched several videos. This is not what's going on. These things have been a fiasco. You actually see an image there of a man who ran up there, and I have the video here. We're going to watch just a minute of this.
And the pain, I'm getting ready to introduce myself. My name is Pastor Carlton Lynch. I serve with Reverend Al Sharpton, National National Network.
Respect!
Yes, ma'am.
Hold up!
Yes, ma'am.
This looks like a phenomenal job. This thing's falling apart. This is the beginning of the whole thing.
All we're coming
This
to
is
do.
South Bend, Indiana. Hold up, bro. No disrespect.
No disrespect. I'm going to shout you down. You're the speaker. You're the person who requested to be here. I'm going to shout you down. This is the level of dialogue we have in our country right now. Just falling apart. Everything is turned to be the most racist option possible. When you, it's so amazing to me. And then with this single shooting, of course, you have this public outrage. You have all this. You have Buttigieg being called out. You have him dropping out of the presidential trail for a few days to, like I said, I believe he's there to pander. That's my aspect of all this. And then here is June 24th this year. This is a story from June 17th. This is just a week ago. 19 shootings, 28 victims, 5 dead as Philly weekend violence escalates. Where are the outrages? Where is the protest against violence? Where are all these things in actual cities? Where are the protests against these super high crime rates? They don't exist. They only come out when someone committing a crime is shot by the police, because that's the level of dialogue in our society right now. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. I don't get it. It seems the more I look into these stories, the more I go into them, it just can't make sense out of it, because it is still this view. And unfortunately, it does seem to be that if an innocent person is shot and killed, there's nothing that happens. But if a person with, multiple arrests, time in prison, violently comes after the police, then there's a outrage when they are shot by the police. And I'm waiting, because in Philadelphia there have been 4 or 5 officer involved shootings, none of which have been fatal. One person committed suicide by themselves, shooting themselves. That sounded dumb, but anyway, I'm waiting for a Philadelphia officer to shoot someone involved in a crime, because I believe that place will explode. And it will be outrage towards the police, as we see in South Bend. Outrage to the police that they have such a high violent crime rate. Outrage to the police because they have such a high property crime rate. And blame the police for all the arrows because of racism. I don't understand how this is going on, but I do know the police enforce the law. But this woman here screaming about raising her 7-year-old grandson when both the parents are apparently out of the picture, and she's raising her grandson to be afraid of police. I do think that is a problem. Please let me know what you guys think. Again, like, share, comment, subscribe. This has been a much longer video than I wanted to make this morning, but I hope you all have a great day.